My name is Rod Lewis. I've served on the State Board of Education for 14 years. The State Board of Education has oversight responsibility over all of education in Idaho and serves as the Board of Regents and Board of Trustees for Idaho's major colleges and universities. I've worked with the legislature on numerous occasions to seek to improve education in this state, both at the K-12 and at level and at our college and universities. In addition to these duties on the side, I worked 22 years with Micron, serving 16 of those years as Micron's Vice President of Legal, General Counsel, and Corporate Secretary. I've seen many issues come before the board over the years. In all of those years, I cannot remember an issue that has come before us on the board that has concerned me more than the issue we are facing today. My colleagues have addressed many of the issues associated with Senate Bill 1254. I hope you have heard the words of Don Soltman, our current president, and that you have heard and will hear the words of our college presidents and university presidents, those whom Senate Bill 1254 seek to restrict. I appreciate what it's like to be in your shoes. We often sit in panels in situations similar to the one today. I know it's easy to steel yourself against the onslaught of comments and carrying a predisposition of how you want to vote. It's easy to not hear what people are saying. I hope you will hear what the leaders of education, local police officers, students, faculty, others are saying to you today. The problems with Senate Bill 1254 are numerous. It has not been well thought out. As far as I know, it was drafted with no consultation with stakeholders. The State Board of Education was not consulted. The universities were not consulted. The colleges were not consulted. The community colleges were not consulted. No one in the education community was consulted. There's been no communication with stakeholders as to whether this is the best solution for the perceived problem. No committees, no discussions, no interchange of ideas. It should mean something to you that not one person immediately affected by this bill was brought into the process of developing the bill. It usually doesn't work out well politically with our Idaho citizenry when that is the case. The bill is not well drafted. We're not here to talk about what might be in the bill, what the intent of the bill is. We're here to talk about what's actually in the bill. The bill has many problems. I would call them defects, but it's not clear to me whether the bill's problems were not drafted as intended. Either the drafters didn't understand what they were drafting, or they have completely misunderstood and misrepresented the effects of this bill. A primary concern, again, this bill is not as advertised, is that it is not a concealed weapons bill. Let's call it what it is. In fact, it is an open weapons carry bill. With all due respect, Senator McKenzie is not correct. Open carry is allowed. Common practice or tradition with respect to other provisions is not sufficient. I was taken aback when Senator McKenzie was unable and unwilling to assure us that this was not an open carry bill. As drafted, this bill allows the open carrying of all forms of firearms anywhere on campus, on the quad, in the classroom, in the library, in administration buildings. No state in the union allows open carry of guns on college campuses. No one. Can you imagine a classroom in which a student enters the room and lays down the gun on his desk? I don't think there would be a lot of learning in the classroom that day. I would have a hard time hearing much of what the professor said that day. I can only imagine the professor's concern as well. I can imagine most students and the teacher watching to see what the student is doing with the gun. Is he fiddling with the safety lock or the trigger? Most likely, a number of the students in the classroom would leave out of concern for their safety. Maybe the professor as well. Can we blame them? Is that the scenario we want for our students and for our faculty? Can you imagine a student carrying a semi-automatic weapon on campus? This was referenced earlier. You don't think that wouldn't create fear and anxiety? How do you know if that guy is a good guy or whether that guy is headed to the student union building to shoot innocent victims? Of course, on the other hand, perhaps if I had a gun, I could stop him. Oh, whoops, he's the good guy. It's not just about police officers knowing the difference. It's about students knowing the difference between a good guy and a bad guy. Secondly, the provisions in this bill that supposedly are meant to allow colleges and universities to restrict the carrying of guns at all in special venues, such as dormitories or public entertainment facilities, such as theaters or stadiums, etc., in fact are written so that open carry of guns is allowed in those locations. In other words, again, under this bill, completely opposite to what has been advertised and communicated, open carry of guns is allowed in special venues such as dorms, theaters, stadiums, auditoriums, etc. I look forward to the day when a fan from the opposing team comes into the Kibbe Dome or Bronco Stadium brandishing a shotgun, a rifle, or a semi-automatic weapon, or a pistol, takes it into the stadium and starts inadvertently, incidentally, pointing it at players on the field, or coaches, or referees, or opposing fans. Really? Mine would be the first family that leaves the stadium when someone comes into the stadium carrying a gun and sits down next to me and next to my children. How do I know his intent? Is that a good guy or a really bad guy? No reason to take chances. Good luck getting people to go to games or to plays or concerts, etc., once we allow open carry of guns in special venues. Good luck getting parents to agree to allow their children to stay in dorms in the same scenario. Of course, these same arguments and concerns apply equally to concealed carry, but that is not even what we're talking about today. Again, either this bill has been poorly drafted or it has been falsely advertised. This bill extends far beyond anything anyone has discussed. The impact of this bill could be devastating to the future of our institutions. We have worked hard over the last 10+ years to increase the level of excellence and enhance the quality and image of our institutions. This involves attracting strong presidents, great faculty, great students, increasing research, and enhancing collaboration with the private sector. I can think of nothing more chilling to those efforts than allowing the open carrying of guns on campus. Passage of this bill would set our institutions back significantly and perhaps irreparably. If this bill passes, as written, it will have a chilling effect on our relationships with third parties and with the recruitment of presidents, faculty, students, and oh, by the way, good luck in recruiting talented student athletes when mom and dad find out that open carry is allowed in Idaho's campuses. I doubt the drafters of this bill understood the impact or import of what they were proposing. Of course, if they had consulted with the stakeholders involved, they might have been able to come to that understanding. We hear the common refrain, well, Utah did it, Colorado did it. To that I respond, we should be smart enough to develop our own thoughts and make our own decisions. The fact no bad result has occurred does not mean that they have found the right answer. Should we emulate those states, for example, Colorado, in all matters? I think you know what I mean. In fact, the vast majority of states restrict the carrying of guns on campus. This has resulted in college campuses statistically being one of the safest places to be in the country. Only 2 states allow the carrying of guns on campus, and those states allow concealed carry only. Again, no one allows open carry on campuses. The key question is, what problem are we trying to solve? Is it safety? If so, there are other alternatives available. Why do you think that most companies do not allow guns on their campuses or in their offices? Do you think they consciously decide to make their campuses less safe? No, they have reached the rational conclusion that it is safer to rely on other safety measures, including the use of trained security professionals, than to rely on employees carrying guns in the office. In fact, they have concluded that employees carrying guns in the office creates a less safe environment. The same goes for Idaho's private colleges and universities. Neither BYU nor NNU or other private institutions allow guns on their campuses. Shouldn't Idaho's public institutions be allowed the same right to decide what is safest for their students and faculty? Let's be clear about one thing. As stated earlier, this bill is not about Second Amendment rights. Reference to Second Amendment rights is what they call a red herring. The most conservative justices on the U.S. Supreme Court have reaffirmed that the Second Amendment does not prohibit restrictions on carrying guns in sensitive areas such as, quote, schools and government buildings. To say this is about constitutional rights is equivalent to saying it's okay under the First Amendment to yell fire in a public theater, causing a stampede resulting in injury and perhaps death. The First and Second Amendments do not confer unlimited rights. The First Amendment does not protect that kind of speech, and the Second Amendment does not preclude the regulation of guns in schools. In truth, as stated earlier, this bill is about policy. The bill is about the Idaho legislature imposing a policy on Idaho's colleges and universities without regard to the judgment or input of the leaders on the ground who are responsible for the actual safety of their students and faculty and the future of their institutions. This bill is not about constitutional rights. If the problem is safety, then let's have a thoughtful discussion about safety. Let's talk about how best to protect our students. If the legislature believes current measures are insufficient, then let's talk about what more can be done. Let's have a dialogue. Let's include our college presidents and talk about additional security measures. Appropriate carrying among other trained staff members, perhaps, additional professional security personnel, additional monitoring, etc. Let's do our homework about what works and determine the best course to keep our students safe. Let's not succumb to political pressure. Let's do what's right for Idaho, not what's right for others. I think that you will find the members of the State Board of Education are all generally conservative. Politically, we've been appointed by a Republican governor. We all support the ownership of firearms and the Second Amendment. We understand the concern about safety on our campuses. But we have weighed this bill carefully, and we have thought through the ramifications of this bill, and we don't think this bill's proposed approach serves the purpose of making our campuses safer. You and we have been misled about the nature of this bill. It is an open carry bill. It is dangerous and will, if passed, be very harmful to our colleges and universities. We, the State Board of Education, strongly recommend a no vote on this bill. Alternatively, we would strongly recommend that this bill be deferred and assigned to a legislative committee, including the State Board of Education and the presidents of our institution, to develop a rational and reasonable approach to the problem. Let's listen to leaders on the ground. That is always good policy. Let's make sure we're doing the right thing for all involved. Thank you.
Other questions? Representative Batten.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Lewis, I was just wondering that if there was clarification in the bill about the open carry, would you then support the legislation?
Not necessarily. What I would support is a dialogue among the institutions, among those who are affected directly by this bill, and you, to talk about what problem are we trying to solve and what is the best way to solve that problem.
Thank you.
Other questions? Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you.